Welcome back, everyone, and now we're going to get into our college football for the week. Last week was an interesting week, I would say, at least at the beginning of the week, because we had a crushing blowout to begin the week.
Yes, we did.
Friday it was Stanford took on Washington in the first of three top 10 games, top 10 teams playing each other.
For the first time since 2002.
And Washington went in there and demolished them 44-6. On their home turf.
On their home turf, they sailgate up in Seattle there. They have a little it's not a lake, but I guess you could say it's a lake. They have water by their stadium, and I think it's cool, pretty cool. It's a different type of lifestyle for college football. You don't really see it at all, especially with Washington not being very good lately. Now Chris Peterson, as I've said, I'll say it again, him and Harbaugh I really, really like, and I think they're doing fantastic jobs at both of their universities. But anyways, they sailgate and they park their boats next to the stadium, and that's how they watch the game. Some of the fans. The rest of the fans are obviously in the stadium, but I thought that was pretty cool. And as you said, Stanford got blown out. Christian McCaffrey was held without a rushing touchdown again, and I thought this was an interesting stat. He has not had a rushing touchdown in a true road game during his career at all while he's been at Stanford. That's just mind-blowing in my opinion, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I brought this game up real quick because I know it's probably going to be featured in our questions that we typically do for each week. The upset, the best, who we thought was the best game, whatever. We'll get right into that. The biggest upset from this week, I know there wasn't really many upsets. There wasn't any true mind-blowing upset.
No.
There was minor upsets. Washington's a minor upset. Very minor.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think it was an upset. I mean, ranking-wise it was, because Washington was ranked 10th. Stanford was 7th at the time. But it really wasn't. Yeah. It really wasn't a huge upset because I think Washington's real good.
Yeah, other upsets that on paper upsets. North Carolina defeated number 12 Florida State, and technically Oklahoma defeated TCU, which is technically an upset because Oklahoma's unranked. But Oklahoma is a good team. Let's not forget that. I mean, their two losses this year are to two top 10 teams themselves. Granted, one of them is Houston, and the other is the second-ranked team in the nation now, the Ohio State Buckeyes. But both those losses were pretty bad for the Sooners, though. So they haven't been looking that great this season. But they went out there. But then they almost blew this game against TCU. They were crushing them. They only won by, I think, one score or something like that against TCU. So that is a bit of an upset. But, again, this week, I think it was last week or the week prior, that no real true upset that we can just be like, bang, that's an upset. Point it out of the crowd and be like, that's the big upset right there.
Totally agree with you, Corey.
So, I mean, that question can either be loaded with content or just nothing, basically, week to week, It depends what goes on. But, move on. What about the best game from this past weekend? There's always really close games every week in college football, but for you personally, though, this is more of a personal question, I feel. Because if you watch the game...
Somewhat. I have it listed. I have 4 games, though, as the best game. So it is listed. I will get to here in a second. First, it was on Friday night. The Toledo Rockets traveled to Provo, Utah to face the BYU Cougars, who we've talked about a lot.
We feature them in the picks a lot.
We feature them every single week, it seems like.
I think last week was
but they're an independent school.
Yeah.
And I'll get more into that here in a second as well. With them being an independent school, they can play. They're not an independent school. They're part of an independent conference, and they can play anybody, anywhere, anytime. But that Toledo BYU game, BYU won 55-53. I actually was watching that Stanford Washington game, and then watched the whole thing because I wanted to see how Washington would play at the end of the game, how they would handle themselves being up, 30, 35 points. And I totally forgot that BYU was playing. And I watch wrestling, as most people know by now. So does Corey. I watch New Japan Pro Wrestling. I don't think you do, though, because it's taped months in advance, and then they show it on Access TV. Well, it was back in January at, what was it called?
Wrestle Kingdom 10.
Yeah, Wrestle Kingdom 10. And saw AJ Styles take on Shinsuke Nakamura.
Yes.
And
I watched that match personally.
Both these guys are in WWE at the moment. But this was right before they left. And I have DVR, so it was taped from earlier in the night on Friday. And as I said, totally forgot about that BYU game because I watched that match. And then I was just so tired, went to bed because I knew I was going to have a long day watching college football on Saturday there. And wish I wouldn't have went to bed because that BYU game got real exciting at the end. Pretty much real exciting the whole game if you watch the highlights. As I said, BYU won 55-53. Game didn't get over till 2:30 in the morning. And another funny part about that game, Mac Brown was announcing along with one of the other ESPN broadcasters. I forget what his name is, but Mac Brown also calls. He also does in-studio stuff on Saturdays with. He used to do it with the late great John Saunders. Now with Stan Verrett and Mark May, but anyways, he had to get back to Bristol, Connecticut, in time to do that because there was a game on ABC at noon, and it's the ABC halftime show is what it is that he's a part of on Saturdays. But he calls Friday night games, and that game was on late on Friday night, so he had to fly back. He'd left with 10 minutes to go in the game, and the one announcer had to call the game by himself with the sideline reporter. I don't think I've ever seen it before. I don't know if I'll ever see it again. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe if we get famous, and we have to leave somewhere, maybe that happens to us. I don't know. That was one of the best games of the week. The Tennessee-Georgia game with just how it ended. You had 2 Hail Marys in the last 20 seconds of the game. I really didn't watch it because, and I saw the highlights because I was watching this game, the next best game of the week, Minnesota at Penn State. Really wasn't that exciting. The whole game just got exciting at the end because it went to overtime. Penn State they should have lost. James Franklin should have been fired on Sunday if they would have lost. But Minnesota at Penn State, just how they won. Saquon Barkley first play of the game that Penn State had the ball, nearing 25 yards, for the touchdown. And then that Louisville-Clemson game on, Saturday night in primetime on ABC from Death Valley there. Clemson actually disappointed me in the third quarter because they let Louisville come back after they were up 18 at the half, 28-10. And let Louisville come back, take the lead in the third quarter. But then the fourth quarter came along. Clemson, figured out, oh shit, we have to win this game to be in the, talks to still, be in the college football playoff at the end of the year. But really at the same time, as I've said before, if you lose early, you can still get back in. Louisville, they're fine. But that game, Clemson won by a yard,
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of good games this past weekend, I thought.
I mean, you took all of the ones for me, pretty much.
Sorry.
Tennessee and Georgia, and then, of course, Louisville and Clemson.
Sorry.
So I won't really get into those. You did a pretty good job of that. So I think we'll just move on.
Why, thank you.
You're welcome. But about the teams that impressed and disappointed us, we'll start with what team impressed you this week in particular?
I mean, you could say Washington, but they're already good, and I just talked about that a little bit ago when we were talking about the Stanford-Washington game. Other than that, no one really impressed this past week.
No one really stands out as impressive. I will say, in the loss, Wisconsin, for me, kind of impressed me personally. I didn't know that...
Even in the loss?
Even in a loss. I mean, I've done that before on the show. I did it for the Cowboys, week 1, when they lost their first week.
Yeah, the Giants. Yeah, I remember that now.
I said they impressed me because of how Dak Prescott was in his first game.
Yeah.
So, I've done it before, but they showed me a lot in that game. Kept it really close there throughout the entire game for the most part. Very tight, defensive battling game in Ann Arbor. Very surprised that Wisconsin was able to hold up with Michigan there. But, of course, it was Michigan's first true test of the season, ranking in conference-wise as well.
That's true.
Bigger games to come for them, too, though, down the line.
That's true. Before we do disappointed, too, I got some, I guess you could say it's breaking news, but it involves basketball, the NBA in particular, and I know we talked about some basketball today, when we were talking about hockey, just because of our preview coming up. But the Toronto Raptors, Kyle Lowry, he plans to opt out of his 2017-18 contract worth about $12 million. But he is expected to re-sign, so we'll have to follow that story, when that time comes. But I just want to throw that out there. I just got the notification there,
all right,
that might occur.
All right. Definitely.
So let's get back into college football and teams that disappointed.
Yeah, definitely something to look out for down the line when we get more about basketball. But nevertheless, yes, team that disappointed this week. I mean, of course, Stanford. You have to say Stanford.
You could say Stanford, yes, because they lost by
just the way that they lost
it. They lost 44
to 6. It was.
So that's 38.
The manner in which they lost makes it really disappointing, more so than anything.
Yeah.
Not so
now, if
they
were at home and they got blown out like that,
then it's really, really
yes, that's awful.
That's beyond disappointing right there. Otherwise, I mean, there wasn't really any team that just stood out that they were super disappointing on this week. I mean, you mentioned Clemson; their third quarter was pretty putrid.
Yeah, because they let Louisville come back, but Louisville's a good team.
Louisville's obviously a good team.
They blew out Florida State at home 63-20 a couple weeks ago. Lamar Jackson's still unreal. Hell, he still had 4 touchdowns in this game.
Yeah.
He led the Cardinals. Pace. He led the Cardinals to come back. Against the Tigers. So Louisville, keep an eye out for them. They still might make the playoff. I think, they've been a real surprise to everybody, obviously. But keep your eyes out for Louisville. Stanford disappointed. Obviously, I agree with you on that. And then Clemson, as you said, because I said it. But then just in the third quarter. But then one of your Big 12 schools. I know you really like the Big 12, Corey. You said Iowa State's more of a basketball school a couple weeks ago. Not big of a football school. They were there maybe for a year or two. Paul Rhodes was their head coach. No longer head coach. He has since been fired. But they played Baylor at home. And then they were up. And Baylor ended up coming back. But what I'm trying to say here is Baylor disappointed me because they shouldn't even won. They should have won by 30, not 3, on the road at Iowa State. So Baylor was another team that disappointed me this past week because Iowa State, I agree with you, is not a football school. They are a basketball school.
Yes, definitely, and especially in recent memory for basketball, for sure. I mean, they've lost some guys here this draft. I know George Niang, but
yes,
that's basketball, though. We'll try not to dive into anything too off topic, I guess, as we move forward. We're going to move into the next week now. Picks last week, FBS, or FCS.
Well, it is. FCS we always do first. Yes. Yeah, I'll get into it now.
I got confused
yeah, it's all right. FCS we do first, then the FBS, then we do the NFL. FCS, I went 4-1. 4-0 last week. Excuse me. Corey went 3-1. Yes. I'm 12-3 on the year, and he's 11-4 on the year. We got 4 games again this week. Cornell at Harvard, North Dakota State at Missouri State, Richmond at Albany. But first, I want to start with Northern Colorado at Eastern Washington. As I've said, Eastern Washington, plays on a red turf field. Boise State plays on a blue turf field. Eastern Washington's playing at home. I've picked them on here before, so I got to pick them again. Eastern Washington over Northern Colorado.
I will also go with Eastern Washington at home over Northern Colorado.
All right, Harvard we picked last week. I'm pretty sure we did. They play host to Cornell. I'm going to take Harvard. Ryan Fitzpatrick, an alum. Harvard, pretty much Harvard's only good NFL football player, I guess you could say, in recent history. Not sure about 50 years ago, whatnot, but Fitzpatrick's been having some trouble lately with the Jets. Been turning the ball over too much. I think Harvard gets the win for Ryan Fitzpatrick.
All right. I will say that I will also take Harvard in this one. They are a pretty good school at football for the most part, I would have to say. At least in what they do, at least. They're not like elite level football school, obviously, but they have some solid teams. And of course they're at home. You know how much I love home teams.
Yeah.
On the show. So
yeah, it was last week. Half the stuff you picked, half the games you picked home teams, half the games you picked the away teams.
Well, hell, if you were paying attention when we did baseball, I picked every home team actually.
Yeah, because I
picked all the home teams in baseball for every series.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's true. Okay.
Even the World Series. Yep. So.
All right. Yeah. That home field advantage, and we'll get more here into that in a second. I believe I have something written down about one of these games for some home field advantage. I could be mistaken though. I might be thinking about some older notes from previous episodes because we've talked about a lot of stuff on here so far ever since we started back in April. Next is North Dakota State and Carson Wentz's old school. He's been doing phenomenal in the NFL for the Philadelphia Eagles. They go to Missouri State. I'm gonna have to take the Bison.
North Dakota State.
I've told that story on here before too. So yeah, you're gonna take North Dakota State. I'm gonna take North Dakota State.
Obviously, like the best FCS team.
They are playing on the road though, so it's not in the Fargo Dome, so they might have a little bit of trouble. But hell, they went into Iowa City a couple weeks ago and beat the Iowa Hawkeyes.
They are the FBS so.
Yeah, and then we had that discussion, if they should, join the FBS ranks and stuff of that nature. Last FCS game of the week is the Richmond Spiders. Mike London, the former head coach at the Virginia Cavaliers, his alma mater, going to Albany, New York to take on Albany. I'm going to take Richmond because I have some connections down in Virginia.
I don't really know much about these teams or anything. You talk about connections. I'll go Richmond too, thanks to connections. I was born in Virginia, so
all right.
Yeah.
All right. Now FBS. I went 4-6 last week. You went 5-5, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right,
and I'm 36-28 on the year, and you're 42-22 on the year.
Surprisingly strong.
So you got a 6-game lead on me right now in the FBS ranks. I got a 1-game lead on you in the FCS, and then the NFL, because I know it off the top of my head at the moment, I'll probably forget by the time we start talking about the NFL. We are tied at 19-15 for the year.
You had a good week last week.
And then I went 6-2 last week, and then
I was split down the middle.
You went 4-4, yeah. So
very average.
You were
perfectly average.
You were splitting some wood last week.
Perfectly average on
which is perfectly fine. 500 is perfectly fine, and it's going to lead you to bigger and better things, in the end, because maybe I have a real bad week.
Yeah.
I maybe only get 1 win, and then you still go 500. You still got a couple games on me then.
And you have to say slow and steady wins the race.
Exactly, my point. Anyways, games this week. Thursday night tonight, as you know, we record on Wednesdays. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Temple Owls, they came up here to State College, University Park, Happy Valley, a couple weeks ago. Had a close one with the Nittany Lions. Came up short. They go to Memphis. I'm going to take Temple in this one just because I don't think Memphis has gotten over losing Paxton Lynch.
Yeah.
They are a month into the season already, but losing Paxton Lynch to the NFL, it's going to hurt. And he actually made his first appearance in a game this past week down in Tampa when the Broncos played down in Tampa there. And then the Buccaneers had a rain delay for the second straight week, and then they got hurricanes coming up the coast now. We'll get more here into that too, because we got some games in Florida picking, but I'm going to take Temple over Memphis just because losing Paxton Lynch, I don't think they're over it.
Yeah, I was just thinking that when you introduced this game right now, no Paxton Lynch for Memphis, it's going to be tough. Temple's a good team, even on the road. I know. I mean, Mr. Home here, right here.
Yeah.
Mr. Home team, but I'm going to have to take the Temple Owls in that one.
All right, next is on Friday night, the Clemson Tigers, who just beat Louisville last Saturday night at home. They traveled to Boston College. And Boston College will be wearing their red bandana uniforms in memory of a, how do I want to say it, a fallen alum who played lacrosse at Boston College in the 90s. He worked at the World Trade Center during 9/11. So I really don't know the whole story, but that's really all you need to know. Boston College, Steve Adazio, former Temple coach too, by the way. He will. He might be on the hot seat right now. They had a 3-9 season last year, I believe it was. It might have been 4-8. I really don't know what to say. I don't know. I have Clemson winning. I don't have any notes for this game, so I'm just trying to go off the top of my head. Speaking of that hurricane, too, in Florida, a good friend of ours, Christian Lesler, we've talked about him on here times before. He played at Boston College, has since transferred to the University of Central Florida. He's down in Orlando right now, hurricane coming up. Stay safe, Christian. We wish you the best. We actually saw you guys postponed your game against Tulane until November 5th. So you got a bye week this week instead of on the weekend of November 5th. So if you come home this weekend, give me a call. Anyways, I'm going to go with Clemson just because, I have Clemson wrote down. I don't have any notes for this game, like I said. But I wouldn't be surprised if Boston College, does squeak it out just because they beat USC at home 2 years ago in their first ever red bandana game.
That is an interesting fact right there, but still, it's Clemson coming off a huge win last week over Louisville. They're going to be firing on, or at least really confident, I guess, is what I want to say. They're going to be really confident going into this game. I think this will be kind of a blowout. I think it might be a lower scoring blowout, though. Maybe not a super high scoring blowout.
Like 20-3 or
20-3, like maybe 28-10 or something like that.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe not like 55-0 or something like that. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be that great again. It might be. Boston College might surprise me, but I think Clemson for sure in this one.
All right. And two, I just lost my train of thought. I know what I was going to say and I totally forgot. God damn it. Excuse my French. I like to swear in here sometimes. Oh, you said speaking of big wins, they had that big one against Louisville last week. Look at Michigan State. They went to South Bend week 3, because they had a bye week 2. They snuck out the win in South Bend. That's when Notre Dame was, still good.
As good.
Now they're 2-3. They fired their defense coordinator. It was a big win at the time.
Yes.
But look at Michigan State. They've lost 2 games since then to Wisconsin and Indiana. So, and Clemson's beaten Auburn. They've beaten Louisville. Who else did they beat this year?
They've beaten some.
They barely beat
Troy. It was
Troy. Yes, that's who it was.
Absolutely murdered South Carolina State or whatever it was, where they had to shorten the quarters, the second half.
No, that Clemson played South Carolina State as well. So that's what you're thinking. Clemson almost beat Troy.
No, they barely beat Troy.
And then
they murdered South Carolina State.
Yes, and that was the game.
That's the game I'm talking about.
Okay, I thought you said Troy played South Carolina.
No, Troy. They barely beat Troy.
Yeah. So yeah. Maybe Clemson has a fallback game like Michigan State did against Wisconsin, but we'll have to see. But I'm going Clemson. You're going Clemson. Enough said with that. Next, Red River rivalry. Red River Showdown is what they're calling it now. Texas, Oklahoma, and Dallas at the Cotton Bowl. Big 12 matchup. You got to pick one school, Corey. Who are you taking?
I'm going to go with the Sooners. I like the Sooners a lot. Texas, it's going to be a good game probably. Texas
always is
unranked now thanks to losing last week to Oklahoma State in a shootout of a game. Holy crap! The game was I forget the exact score. I know it was a ludicrous score at halftime.
52-46.
Yeah, I was thinking of the halftime score itself. It was 27-20 something or something like that. It was a ludicrous scoreline. I know that. That's a Big 12 attribute though. A lot of games are like that in the Big 12. I'd say, but
no one knows how to play defense.
Yeah, but. Should be another high-scoring game here. I'm going to go Oklahoma in the end. big win last week. Maybe get their season finally started a little bit better. They're out of the college football playoff, essentially, though.
As of right now, yes, but it's still early.
Unless someone really
anything can happen.
I mean, of course, no championship game is going to really hurt them anyway.
Yeah.
Even if they were still undefeated at this time, even.
Last year in this matchup, Texas beat Oklahoma surprisingly. Oklahoma was undefeated going into that game, and they lost. And it was their only loss of the season. Yet they still won the Big 12. They still made the college football playoff after, and then they lost to Clemson, who ended up losing to Alabama, who won the whole damn thing. Charlie Strong is on the hot seat now. He was on the hot seat going into the season, but then after, excuse me, I've been talking too much, and I'm all out of water. Or should I say I'm all out of beer, as Stone Cold would say, and a lot of other people. Anyways, what was I saying? Yeah. Charlie Strong's on the hot seat going in to the season. He's definitely on the hot seat now. But then they beat Notre Dame, but as I just said, Notre Dame's gone down. So that win isn't looking as impressive as it did week 1, the day before Labor Day. I think Oklahoma will get on track here soon. I don't think, no pun intended, Sooners.
Yeah.
I think it's just a little too late, though. As I said, it's still early, but I think it's just a little.
Yeah.
I think it's just a tad late for them to get into the mix for the college football playoff. LSU at Florida is next. Yeah, so you picked Oklahoma. Yeah, I asked you that. LSU Florida is next. Gainesville, possibly a target for this Hurricane Matthew. We'll have to see. LSU fired Les Miles 2 weeks ago. Ed Oregon. Sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. If you're out there listening, is the new interim head coach. He was actually the interim head coach at Ole Miss for a time, and the interim head coach at USC as well. But Florida, playing at home, Jim McElwain. LSU did put up a number of points last week in their first game after they fired Les Miles, in which questioned their offensive play. That's the reason why they fired him. They fired their offensive coordinator, but then they put all these yards and points last week. But Florida's playing at home. The Swamp's a tough place to play. It's actually, they renamed the stadium. It's Steve Spurrier Field at Ben Griffin Hill Stadium now. Excuse me, I wanted to get that right. But Florida's playing at home. Swamp's a tough place to play. Jim McElwain will outcoach Ed Oregon. And Florida will get a marquee win in SEC.
I am on the same page as you, picking Florida at home at the Swamp. It's going to be tough for LSU to win that one. Definitely for me. So I was Florida.
Go with that. All right. Next game you wanted to pick, Georgia Tech at Pitt.
Yeah, Georgia Tech at Pitt. I think it should be a good game, maybe a shootout game. Pitt's been involved in a lot of shootouts here this year, and Georgia Tech, they're a pretty solid school. They have 2 losses this year, both to top 10 teams officially right now, Clemson and Miami. So they are a really good team. I mean, when you look at them, their resume is not terrible. I mean, if they would have won one of those games, hell, they'd be maybe ranked right now. Who knows? But it should be a good game. I'm going to take Georgia Tech in this one. I think they're a little too much for Pitt.
I'm also going to take Georgia Tech.
And I think I know for obvious reasons.
Yes. Do you want to tell them why, or do you want me to say it again?
You can say it again. I don't want to say it.
Okay. It's because I like Penn State. I can't like Pitt. So eat shit, Pitt. I've said it a number of times on here. So, yeah. Georgia Tech over Pitt. Next. I think this is going to end in an upset.
All right.
Houston at Navy. I'm going to take Navy in an upset over Houston Cougars. They're playing in Baltimore there. I think the midshipmen will pull it out.
I think this definitely is a low-key, really good game this week.
It is.
At first sight, you're probably like, maybe not. I saw this first. I'm like, oh, we should probably pick this game this week, and I'm glad you put it in there as well. But I'm going to go Houston in this one. They've been looking pretty good this season, of course. Being not in the Power 5, they don't really play anyone super, super great. They played Oklahoma the first week of the season, beat them. So,
but Oklahoma's up and down.
Yes, so that win doesn't look that impressive anymore, but at the time it looked amazing.
It just shows you how much stuff can change in a matter of moments.
Yes, but I'm going to have to go with the Cougars overall in this one. I think they're just going to be way too much for the midshipmen.
You just said something that I got real intrigued about. I just forgot it, though. What did you just say?
Was it the fact that they're not Power 5?
No, possibly? It was before that. It was like one of the first things you just said.
Oh, then I probably don't even remember myself.
Just forget about it. I can't remember. If I remember, I'll butt in and
all right.
Say it. Really mad now that I forgot that. Anyways, next game, BYU at Michigan State. First ever meeting between these two schools. BYU has 3 losses by a total of 7 points this season already. Their 2 wins are by a total of 4 points. So they've been in real close games, so far this season. Expect this one to be close as well then. I really want to pick BYU, and I told this story last week. Except they screwed me in the Arizona, Utah, and UCLA game. So I could have 3 more wins on my total victories so far, but oh well. Their schedule doesn't get any easier either. Being an independent school and independent conference, I referenced to this a couple minutes ago. They can play any team, from any conference at any time, anywhere. They played Mississippi State, Boise State, and Cincinnati in the next 3 weeks. And Michigan State's now coming off back-to-back losses against Wisconsin and Indiana. Indiana for the first time since 2007. And as I said, I really want to take BYU in this one, take the Cougs, but Mark D'Antonio will have his Spartans ready and to play, especially after his back-to-back losses. So Michigan State. And then I picked Notre Dame over Michigan State a couple weeks ago, and I shouldn't have done that. I can't pick the Catholics over, any school. So Michigan State over BYU.
Yeah, that's also why I'm picking Michigan State, because of the back-to-back losses. They're going to be hungry for a win here. They're going to come out and, at least I think they should come out and play with some real determination and really want to try to get this win. They should not come out here and look stale. If they do, then forget about this season in general. They need to keep their season afloat, I'd say. For the most part, if they lose this one, it could be just downward spiral from here.
Well, I don't know about that. They'd probably finish either 3rd or 4th in the Big Ten East behind, Michigan, Ohio State, possibly Penn State as well.
Yeah, but I think they come out playing hungry, and I think they're going to win this one. Going back to the last game, was it about how I said it was going to be low-key one of the best games?
Yeah.
The previous game, Houston-Navy. Was that what you were thinking about earlier? I called it one of the low-key, probably maybe best game of the week.
I don't know. Can we stop this for a second and go back and listen? Because it's really, really bugging me. I don't know what it was you said, Corey, that I was about ready to say something, and I totally forgot. So we're going to stop this for a second, go back and listen. But it's recorded. It's up. It's recorded the day before, and then we upload it. So I don't know why I just said all that. But anyways, we'll be back right after this. Alright, so we're back now. What it was that I forgot after we went back and listened to the recording there was I wanted to say how we come up with the games we're going to pick. I come up with my slew of games. Corey comes up with his. When we get together to record, we decide on, all the, games for the week for both college and the NFL. And again, this week we got four matchups between top 25 schools, and it seems like it's the 4th or 5th time in the first 6 weeks of the season, that this has happened. I don't remember it happening ever before. It's just really how the schedules are shaping up, I guess you could say. But yeah, that's what it was that we were that I was forgetting. I thought it was something about the game. That's why I forgot, but that's my bad. Everyone makes mistakes. So, going back to that BYU Michigan State game now. Michigan State's playing at home too, so, you can't just... you can pick against them, but I've picked against them and I've paid for it. So, Michigan State for both of us. Tennessee at A&M, Texas A&M that is. Good God, I've been talking too much today.
Long episode today.
Huh?
Long episode today.
It is a long episode. We have a lot of content. And if you haven't noticed, too, this is part 2 of episode 26.
Yes.
Go check out part 1. This is where College Game Day's at this week. College Station. Third appearance for Tennessee already this year. They're at the Battle of Bristol, and then they were in Knoxville there when they hosted Florida, and now this game. And now possibly they might even be back in Knoxville next week, depending on how this weekend shapes up, because Tennessee hosts Alabama, and that could be a top 5. It's definitely going to be a top 10 matchup if both teams win. Could be a top 5 matchup, though. But then there's also another good game, next weekend as well, up at Camp Randall, up in Madison there. Ohio State goes up there to face Wisconsin. That's 8 o'clock on ABC. The Tennessee-Alabama game's at 3:30 on CBS. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that. Wisconsin is off this week, so really it's a win for game day, because if Ohio State beats Indiana, which they have never lost to Indiana since Indiana and Ohio State have been members of the Big Ten Conference, College Game Day could be in Madison, Wisconsin next weekend. But now back to Tennessee. Third appearance for them already, as I said. I really don't want to pick either one of these teams, to be honest with you, Corey. But I got to pick someone. I don't think either of these teams will be in the playoffs, so I don't really care about these two schools anyway, or the SEC in general. Big 10 guy, you're a Big 12 guy. So I'm going to pass, and can I let you know next week who I wanted to pick in this game? No, I can't do that? All right.
I can let you cheat on the picture.
All right. I'm not going to beat Tom Brady. He is returning this weekend, too. We'll be picking that game here coming up. But I'm going to take Tennessee. I don't think, and I said it last week, and I told you off air, I can't remember if I said it on here. I didn't think A&M was deserving of their ranking, and then they, won and moved up this past week. So, Tennessee, they did have a close one against Georgia. The ending was crazy. I said it a little bit ago. 2 Hail Marys in the last 20 seconds. But Butch Jones is going to have his volunteers ready going into College Station in Kyle Field. Tennessee beats Texas A&M. And another note, too, as I said, game day's there. They need a guest picker. Johnny Manziel's not doing anything. Manziel, you going to be the guest picker this week at game day?
Who knows? I'm going to go A&M at this one. I mean, first of all, at home, they already had me a little bit right there. Then,
tough play. It is a tough place to play.
And then Tennessee, last 2 weeks having to come back from deficits to win in close games against, they are pretty competent opponents in Florida and Georgia, both of which, I know Florida was on the road, I'm pretty sure, and then last week they were on the road to Georgia too. So one of those was a road. One of those was a home game. Virginia or Tennessee. Was this 2 straight road wins, or were they home against Tennessee? I forget. Or they were home against Florida. Tennessee was.
Tennessee was home against Florida. That's when game day was in Knoxville.
All right,
and then they played Virginia Tech at a neutral site at Bristol.
No, I'm talking about last week Georgia. They were
at Georgia. Yes.
I was trying to remember that. But yeah, second straight road week here for them. 2 straight close victories. Haven't looked super impressive almost at any point this season, I would have to say.
I agree with you on that, but I just don't.
I'm going to go A&M.
I just can't pick A&M.
It's one of these games where you don't really know who's going to win this one.
I haven't liked A&M at all, really. Well, I did like them there for a little bit when they had Stephen McGee back in 2007, 2008 time frame. But then once they got Johnny Manziel, with his attitude, I just can't stand him, and then I just can't stand the team. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Moving on
now. Speaking of Virginia Tech, who played Tennessee, they go to Chapel Hill to play North Carolina. Big win last week for North Carolina against Florida State on the road. A game-winning field goal, 57 yards, 57-yard game-winning field goal. I think they no-show this game, meaning they'll show up, but they're going to play like complete shit, and Virginia Tech's going to pick up the win. I got to pick the Hokies. As I said, I got connections down in Virginia. So, yeah. North Carolina gets blown out at home to the 25th ranked Virginia Tech Hokies. This is one of the 4 ranked versus ranked matchups for this week.
Second of the day.
Well, it's one of them. Yeah, it's the second of the
day.
Second that we've picked.
Yes, I'm gonna go North Carolina in this one. Big win last week, that helps. But I guess I can see where you're coming from almost, in the sense that they need a game-winning field goal. They were blowing them out at one point. They were blowing out Florida State for the most part. They were up 3 touchdowns, 3 scores at least. So, and then they allowed them to come back, and then needed a game-winning field goal just to beat them. But at home, I mean, you know how I feel about home teams. Virginia Tech, they are looking pretty good. They have that one loss to Tennessee. But I'm going to have to go with home team, UNC, in this one. Big win last week. Kind of gives them the edge, I think. That confidence, the riding in that confidence from last week, I think.
All right. Next is Alabama at Arkansas. College game day could be here this week. Just because of that Arkansas A&M game 2 weeks ago in Dallas at Jerry World. A&M won, so they moved up the rankings. Arkansas lost, so they moved down. But if Arkansas would have won, they got the number 1 team in Fayetteville this week. And then they got another home game next weekend against Ole Miss in Fayetteville. So college game day could be there too, but I doubt it because you got that Tennessee-Alabama game and then that Ohio State-Wisconsin game. Yeah. So, but I think, you know what I think about Brett Bielema, in Arkansas, and when he was at Wisconsin, all these connections. I think Alabama's ready to get upset. I'm taking the Razorbacks over the Alabama Crimson Tide.
This is a tough one for me. This is probably my toughest one for the week out of all of them, right up there with A&M Tennessee. For me personally, I think it's gonna be a really close game. Arkansas has proven in years prior that they are able to upset big teams.
Yes,
they have done it before. They will do it again.
And Brett Bielema as a coach in general too.
Yes. This will be a tough game for Alabama, I think. This will be a true tester for them, just like Ole Miss was a couple weeks ago. They almost lost to Ole Miss there on the road, and they're on the road here again. Similarly, why I picked them against Ole Miss, they're just a little bit better than Arkansas, definitely. They're the number 1 team in the country. I'm going to have to give them the very slight edge over Arkansas. I'm not saying Arkansas is bad or anything. I'm just saying Alabama's just that little much better, I think.
And Lane Kiffin, the offensive coordinator for Alabama, there are some coaching jobs open right now, the LSU job. There's going to be some more probably, obviously, at the end of the year. I think this game is going to cost him, and I think he might decide, I need to get out of Tuscaloosa, and thank Nick Saban, though, for giving me the opportunity.
Yeah.
After I, failed at USC, got fired on the tarmac, for God's sake, at LAX. I've told that on here before, too. But, Arkansas is going to upset Alabama. Mark my words. And Lane Kiffin's going to be coaching as a head coach somewhere next year. Next, Washington at Oregon. Washington's 5th-ranked team in the country now after defeating Stanford at home. They go to Autzen Stadium. Tough place to play, but Oregon's starting true freshman quarterback for the first time ever. So I'm gonna have to go with Washington.
Yeah.
And I've said what I've said about them before too, about Chris Peterson and the Huskies. So really like what they're doing. So Washington in a close one over Oregon.
Yeah, I think this might be a kind of a close one. Maybe one of those situations where team pulls away late in the fourth quarter possibly and ends up making the scoreline look worse than it actually was the game.
Yep.
We've seen it before. We'll see it again. Washington now 5th ranked, as you mentioned. That big win last week. I think they're proving something. I think they are for real somewhat here. And I think this one's just another notch in their belt. I think they're going to win this one against Oregon.
All right. Last game on the slate this week, unless you had any other games. You good?
I don't think so, if it's the game we're thinking of.
Yeah, it's the Florida State-Miami game. It's okay. Last game then on the slate, as I said. This game might be affected by that Hurricane Matthew that's coming off the coast. It's in the Bahamas right now as we speak. So, and if Florida State would have won last week, this is where College Game Day would be this week, I think, because it would be a top 10 matchup. I mean, yeah, the Tennessee A&M game is also a top 10 matchup, but then Lee Fitting and the producer for College Game Day would know we've been to 2 Tennessee games already. We need to go somewhere else. But since Florida State lost, and they have 2 losses now, going into Miami, that's why College Game Day is not there. I think Florida State's going to come to play. Obviously, going to be a tough fought game for the Seminoles. But Mark Richt to Miami hand the Seminoles their 3rd loss of the season. And hey, Jimbo, as I said about Lane Kiffin, there's going to be a lot of coaching openings. Yeah. Hey, Jimbo, you were an assistant at LSU back under Nick Saban. Go back to Baton Rouge. Take the head coaching job at LSU, will you? Leave Florida State. Don't stay at Florida State for how many years like Bobby Bowden did. Yeah. Like I said, that Hurricane's coming up. It might be past by then. As of right now, the game's still on. Still early to tell, though, with it only being Wednesday. So, Miami, though, over Florida State.
Yeah, I'm going to go Miami as well. At home, of course.
Brad Kaya, big game.
At home, of course, as I mentioned. This is a game where I can definitely see Florida State possibly winning this game, honestly. They always come to play for the most part, except for the game against Louisville. That was the only game that really they did not look like they were ready at all. It seemed like they got blown out of the water.
Yeah.
But otherwise, they've come back now. They came back and won against Ole Miss in week 1 in a good game. Came back and almost defeated UNC last week. They have the ability to come back and win, but similarly why I picked against Tennessee, doing that too much is going to come back and bite you in the ass. So plus Miami's proven something this year. Top 10 now in the rankings, something that they have not seen for a while now down in Miami.
Yeah, not since Randy Shannon was the head coach, but that was after. That still wasn't a good Miami. Those weren't good Miami teams. Good Miami teams were back in the 80s and the 90s. And I'll talk about the Penn State-Miami matchup in the 86 Orange Bowl. Penn State showed up, suit and tie. Miami showed up in full Army gear, coming off the plane, that is. And Miami was the number 1 team in the country at the time. Penn State was number 2. This is a dole in the desert is what they called it. And Penn State proved everybody wrong. Everybody thought Miami was going to win, blow them out. Penn State won 14-10 to get Joe Paterno's second national championship. In his last national championship, too, by the way. He got screwed over in 1994, and then back in the late 60s, early 70s by then President Richard Nixon when he handed the national championship to his Texas Longhorns since he was from the state of Texas. But you picked Miami. As I interrupted you there for a little bit, Brad Kaya, quarterback for the Hurricanes, big game. He's getting a lot of hype right now to be maybe the number 1 overall pick in the 2017 NFL Draft. Possibly, if not the number 1 pick, possibly the number 1 quarterback taken over Deshaun Watson from Clemson. Miami's going to be playing Clemson here coming up, I believe, by this season's end. So it's going to be another good matchup. A lot of good matchups, in the ACC this year, more than what there's been in the past number of seasons. But yeah, Miami really hasn't been good. Mark Richt, going back to what you're saying there, Mark Richt, turning that program around. Georgia's paying the price. I'm telling you, I've been saying it for the past couple weeks. They should have never fired him. But he's back at his alma mater now, and I'd be happy if Miami won a national championship in the next 5 years. Because I like what he's doing, and say screw you to everybody in Athens, Georgia, and the Georgia Bulldogs.
All right.
So we'll leave it at that.
All
we'll
right,
go to the NFL now.
Yeah, we're going to transition to the NFL. Just had a week 4 last week. This is think about the NFL. We do these questions for the college. we can't. The upset one kind of doesn't really play well with the NFL. You could say, especially so early in the season. There wasn't really any upsets this week. I'll just say that. Like NFL normally isn't really. You could say like sometimes, but sometimes like maybe for instance, the Browns. Let's say, since we're gonna pick this game later, say the Browns beat the Patriots this week. Probably the biggest upset ever. Not ever, but like one of them. Considering how bad the Browns are, considering how the Patriots are going to get Tom Brady back this week.
The Browns are the Browns. Everybody knows that the Browns are the Browns.
And I feel like they should be the benchmark team to choose when you're trying to do a hypothetical upset situation. So
yeah, I don't know what to say.
Either way, I think we can kind of forget about doing upset for NFL. There really wasn't any this week.
Yeah, I didn't have any.
Not really. Bills beat the Patriots. That's not really a huge upset considering that a third-string quarterback again who was kind of injured, Jacoby Brissett. The Patriots didn't score a single point, which was kind of surprising, but still.
That Bills Mafia defense, they circle the wagons and they go out to LA now. They play the Rams this week. We're going to pick that game as well.
Yes.
But Rex Ryan, he outcoached Bill Belichick. Patriots got shut out at home for the first time since '93. Before Belichick was up in Foxborough. And I don't know if you saw it too. It was after we recorded last week. Rex Ryan was wondering who was going to be playing quarterback for the Bills. And the Bills press was having a conference call with Julian Edelman. And Rex Ryan budged in and said his name was like Walt something, real weird last name. And asked him if he was playing quarterback, but he didn't get it. He didn't get an answer from Edelman because I think Edelman knew his voice that it was Rex Ryan. But it was pretty funny. You'd have to go check it out here on YouTube. Did you see that, Corey?
I saw something about it.
You got something about it, okay?
Yeah. So we'll just move on. Best game of this week. The Raiders taking on the Ravens. One of the I think it was the best game this week. 1 point game, exciting game. A lot of lead changes down late in the game. Raiders coming back after giving up a touchdown late, and then got it right back. Win by 1 point thanks to the extra point in the end of the game, or towards the end of the game, about 2 minutes to go. It was as Derek Carr threw a game-winning pass to Michael Crabtree. I think the third on the day to Crabtree, fourth on the day for Carr overall, third to Crabtree. But Raiders looking good this year, as both of us expected they would be.
I had them winning the AFC West.
And they the Raiders
making the playoffs. And what was it? The stat, it was they are not 3-1. Well, they are 3-1, obviously.
Yeah, they are 3-1.
But it might be they're 3-1 for the first time since 2002, the year they went to the Super Bowl.
Back in Rich Gannon days.
So, does Oakland go to the Super Bowl? I don't know, but we'll see.
Probably not.
But I had to agree with you. Best game, yeah. There really wasn't any other than that.
Yeah. Similarly, impressed and not impressed, disappointed. Doesn't really bode well with the NFL sometimes. Impressed this week. I don't really have a name per se, a team. I'll say the Cowboys again. I keep mentioning the Cowboys. Really impressive. 3-1 to start the season under Dak Prescott. And now the questions are arising. Will he just remain the starter despite when Tony Romo comes back?
Well, I would keep him at quarterback.
I would too, considering how he's playing right now. Unless he loses some games now and they start losing, of course, then you can't really do that. But if he keeps winning and, it's just, how are you going to bench this guy? Mm-hmm. I mean, Romo's good, yeah, but he's coming off injuries and stuff. Will he even be able to stay healthy anyway? Also, how are you going to take out Dak Prescott? I mean, the way he's been handling himself off the field as well has just been fantastic as well. As many of his press conferences being the ultimate professional. It's very surprising to see coming from a rookie quarterback, especially taken in the 6th round like he was.
I couldn't say it better.
All right. So you got no one impressed, obviously?
Yeah, I like I said, I couldn't say it better. I agree with you on all that.
I know you wanted to mention...
The biggest upset, there really wasn't any.
Yeah.
Best game, the Raiders-Ravens, and what were you going to say? I was going to say this.
I know you mentioned your Steelers off air. How they crushed the Chiefs.
They crushed the Chiefs. I forgot I said that to you earlier. They crushed the Chiefs. They played each other in Arrowhead in Kansas City last year. actually, it was a week before Halloween last year, and didn't watch the game. I was on my way back from somewhere, and Kansas City beat them, and then both the teams ended up making the playoffs. But then the only reason why Pittsburgh made the playoffs was because they both made playoffs as wild cards too, by the way. Kansas City at 5, Pittsburgh at 6. The only reason why Pittsburgh made the playoffs was because of the New York Jets losing to the Buffalo Bills in the last week of the season. And then Pittsburgh was the 6th seed. As I said, they played at the number 3 seed, Cincinnati Bengals. And then the Chiefs played at the Texans. And then the Chiefs, lost to the Patriots. And then the Steelers lost to the Broncos, both in the divisional round. So they won their wild card games and they lost in the divisional round. And then you had the Broncos and the Patriots in the AFC Championship game. Broncos won that, ended up beating the Panthers in the Super Bowl.
All right.
Yeah, so, just a little story there. You know me. I haven't had story time with Luke on here in a while.
I mean,
but it seems like it's all the time.
I could argue maybe, yeah, we just haven't come out and said it.
Yeah, that's true.
This episode many times, I would say.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with that.
This episode alone, but yeah. On the flip side, I have the Chiefs as a disappointing team because they had 8 turnovers against the Jets the previous week. None this week against the Steelers. Very disappointing because they go from one week being dominant, at least on the defensive side of the ball, to being absolutely torched by Roethlisberger and the Steelers' offense.
Mm-hmm.
Gave up 5 touchdowns to Roethlisberger alone. Also 140 yards or some crap to Le'Veon Bell in his first game back. So, on just like, it was like not even like barely double-digit carries too.
So, what you're saying on the flip side, Steelers impressed, the Chiefs disappointed.
Pretty much, I'd have to say.
Okay.
Also, the Vikings again, 4-0 for the first time.
Because of their defense.
Because of their defense. They're taking a page out of the Broncos playbook from last year.
Hey, everybody, copies off everybody nowadays anyway, so.
Getting average quarterback play from Sam Bradford, which is all he needs to do. That's where he's at his best, I'd have to say. Is he has to do just enough.
This is the best he's been since he was at Oklahoma in college.
Yeah.
With Adrian Peterson. Just imagine if Peterson wouldn't got hurt. Maybe the Vikings would be putting up more points in their 4 victories, but I could be wrong.
He wasn't looking good for the first couple weeks anyway.
No, you're right.
So, it's hard to say. I think a lot of it has to do because of the defense behind him. He's able to play a little more freer, I think. And,
yeah.
And also with that defense, he doesn't really have... The defense is keeping other teams at bay. He doesn't need to go out there and play like hero ball or anything. He just has to do just what he needs to do to win the game, basically.
Mm-hmm.
He just manage the game, get it done that way. I think that's what he need. That's kind of his thing, I think. That's what makes him better if he just is allowed to just manage the game. If he's not forced into a situation where he has to win the game, I think that's where he's at his best, when he's just able to just manage a game and just do enough to win it.
And, we've talked about this person on here before as well. The Vikings quarterback coach is Andrew Janocko from Clearfield here. We talked about him on our local athlete segment back, I think it was episode 5. So yeah, help from Andrews making Sam Bradford a better quarterback.
Yeah, he said he's really comfortable in that Viking system. So, hey,
what are they going to do when Bridgewater comes back healthy?
Who knows?
Are they going to get rid of him and keep Bradford, or get rid of Bradford and keep Bridgewater?
More storylines to be had here.
Too many storylines in the world of sports.
But hey,
we love it because we talk about it here all the time.
Gives us something to talk about. So yeah,
exactly.
All right. Well, we'll move on to the next week here. Week 5 is this week. Last week in the picks, I went straight down the middle. We already went through that. I went 4-4. Luke went 6-2. We're at 19-15 on the season.
Yep.
4 teams on bye this week as the Saints, Seahawks, Chiefs, and the Jaguars take a week off. So we'll get into it. Thursday night game, the Cardinals travel to Santa Clara to take on the 49ers in a game that, Carson Palmer's not going to be playing in, so it might affect our pick on this one. It's not going to affect mine. I'm still going to take the Cardinals in in a painful manner, because I don't honestly know, because they'll have Drew Stanton is their backup, I think.
Yes.
Drew Stanton, he'll be the starter for the Cardinals this week.
Yes.
Against the 49ers. 49ers haven't looked good at any. Well, they shut out the Rams in the first week of the season, but other than that, that's what they did like a couple years ago too. They crushed the Vikings week 1 and then did nothing the rest of the season.
Yeah.
A few years ago on Monday Night Football to open the season. So, I mean, nevertheless, I'm going to take the Cardinals. Not very confident in the pick though. That's what I had written down initially. I'm going to stick with it.
All right, yeah, the Cardinals are without Carson Palmer, as you said. Drew Stanton's going to start. They have Zach Dysert. He signed him off. They brought him up from the practice squad to back up Stanton. I have written down the Arizona Cardinals to win, but I made this pick before I found out Carson Palmer was not playing, so I'm going to change my pick. San Francisco's playing at home. You know, they stuck with the Cowboys last week. As you said, they blew out the Rams, but the Rams have looked impressive. Hell, they're 3-1.
Yeah.
And then they're leading the AFC West. And then who else did the 49ers play this year? Oh, they lost to the Panthers, who aren't looking that well. They look that good either. And they had a close one with them. But they're playing at home. It's a divisional matchup. It's on Thursday night in prime time on CBS NFL Network. And you can watch it on Twitter too. And then you can follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Twitter at ATGL16. But I'm gonna have to go with the San Francisco 49ers just because Carson Palmer's not playing.
Yeah, that's definitely gonna be a big deal.
I really hope Drew Stanton throws the ball to Larry Fitzgerald there because I have him in fantasy football.
Me too.
So
yeah, it's one thing we can agree on right there.
Yeah.
So moving on. I know, Luke, he had penciled in Patriots-Browns.
Yeah.
I mean, we're both picking the Patriots in that game, obviously.
Yeah, we're just going to pick it just because Tom Brady's return, from his
kind of a free game
suspension.
It's almost a free game for us because this is almost a no-brainer, I think.
Well, if you're it's going to be
analytically, you're picking it.
It's going to be a, free game on the loser board if the Browns win.
This should, in all reality, probably be a free win for us this week.
Bill Belichick's going back to Cleveland, where he coached there for a number of years before taking over the New York Jets for one day, and then he took the New England Patriots job. So,
right. Next game then,
Patriots over the Browns.
Yeah. Next game then, I got the Texans taking on the Vikings. The Vikings are undefeated right now, and the Texans, they only have the one loss to the Patriots a few weeks ago now. Actually, no. Yeah, just the week prior to last week. So
yeah, Thursday night.
Last Thursday night.
It's going to be 2 weeks today.
Yeah,
tomorrow.
Weeks. So 2 weeks now. Vikings looking really good this season. That defense, I think Xavier Rhodes, who did a really good job on Odell Beckham on Monday night, he'll be on DeAndre Hopkins. For the most part, I'm sure, but I'm going to stick with the Vikings. I guess they've been looking great. I'm just going to say something. Will Fuller will probably have a big game. He won't have as much attention on him as DeAndre Hopkins, obviously. So that's a reason why he's been looking pretty impressive, I'd have to say.
Yeah, and I have him in fantasy football. And the weeks he's had a good game, I did not start him. The weeks he's had a bad game, I started him. I'm starting him this week. You better have a damn good game, Will Fuller. A lot of people know, I probably just like the Texans just because of Bill O'Brien. And I like the Jets just because of Christian Hackenberg. I discussed the Jets last week, Jet situation last week. I don't think I discussed the Texans. The Texans have tons of talent too, both on offense and defense. They got Will Fuller, DeAndre Hopkins, Lamar Miller, Brock Osweiler is their quarterback, who I really don't like, but oh well. Really wish Hackenberg was down in Houston right now. But anyways, Minnesota's 4-0. Yeah, they're playing at home. But I think Houston's going to hand them the first loss come Sunday.
All right.
Texans over the Vikings.
All right. Next game, Jets take on the Steelers in Pittsburgh. I mean, we'll go through the old routine. I'm picking the Jets, and you are picking the Steelers.
Yes, right, but I think it's gonna be a close game though.
I would hope it's a close game. Hopefully, Fitzpatrick gets his head out of his ass. The last couple of weeks, he's thrown like 9 picks in the last 2 games. That's awful. So they have the talent.
There's obviously going to be controversy if he has another bad game. There already is because of the 2 bad games.
Huge questions.
They got Geno Smith and Christian Hackenberg as the backup quarterbacks. Give Hack a chance. You know what Geno brings to the table. He sucks. And then you got Bryce Petty too, who's on IR because he hurt hurt his shoulder back in the preseason. So, maybe Hackenberg makes his NFL debut this Sunday back in the state of Pennsylvania where he plays college ball at. We'll have to see. Maybe. But I'm going Steelers, you're going Jets just because.
Of course.
And we can't pick the Saints because they're off.
Yes. All right. Falcons versus Broncos, and it should be a pretty good game. Falcons looking pretty impressive here the last couple of weeks, blowing out the Saints and the Panthers. Broncos undefeated as well. Paxton Lynch looks like he might get the start this week. His Trevor Siemian's still hurting from last week. It's going to be a close game. I think it's the Broncos at home. I think their defense is ultimately the deciding factor in this one. If Paxton Lynch or Trevor Siemian plays, it doesn't matter. They'll be able to manage the game fairly well and be able to do just enough to help the Broncos pick up the victory.
I saw they're going to make a announcement. They're going to make up their minds on who's going to be playing quarterback. It's going to be a game time decision whether Siemian plays or not. So if he doesn't play, obviously Paxton Lynch will. But I agree with you what you said. Denver's defense is going to be key. Denver's going to beat Atlanta at home Sunday.
All right. The Bengals taking on the Cowboys in Dallas. Another game that might be all right. It's kind of a tough game. I'm going to go with the Cowboys at home. I've been raving about these guys pretty much all year here on the show. I think they continue it here at home. They've been looking great all season for the most part. Last week looked pretty decent again. Just a one-possession win over the 49ers. But they haven't been blowing teams out. But they've been getting it done, though. The Cowboys have.
I agree.
The Bengals, I've mentioned on the show before, I'm down on the Bengals this year. I don't think they're going to be nearly as good as they were last year. They haven't been either. So I'm going to go Cowboys at home.
They barely beat the Dolphins. I mean, the final score was 22-7, but if you actually watch the game, that game was, closer than, what the final score came out to be.
It was on NFL Network this week, so I did not watch it.
Okay. This matchup here between the Bengals and Cowboys, it's a matchup of two teams that Steelers fans absolutely hate. And Corey knows I'm, right on that. But I can't pick the team that's in the same division as the Pittsburgh Steelers because that one game might come back and haunt Pittsburgh. They might be one game up or, 2 games up or so. You know what I mean? And Dallas has been looking good. Zeke Elliott, anybody can run behind that Dallas offensive line.
Pretty much, it seems like.
I could, and
Darren McFadden
haven't
great
played football in forever. So, him and then Alfred Morris too.
This year too. Alfred Morris.
So Dallas is playing at home. Dallas will beat Cincinnati.
All right. Game we mentioned a bit ago, the Bills taking on the Rams in LA for the second home game for the Rams this season. I'm going to go with the Rams in this one. They've been looking pretty impressive lately. I mean, they're looking what they should be this year, and that's a pretty solid team. Pretty good defensively on the front line, I know for sure. And then the offense, they got Case Keenum as a quarterback. It's not ideal, obviously, at your quarterback position. Todd Gurley, he's been stepping up a little bit. They're another team that's kind of just doing enough to get wins, I would have to say. Mm-hmm. Bills looked good last 2 weeks, actually, crushing the Cardinals and then beating the Patriots in pretty convincing fashion despite the scoreline.
After starting 0-2, by the way.
After starting 0-2.
And then firing Greg Roman, their offensive coordinator.
So they've turned it around a little bit this season. I'm going to have to go slight edge to the Rams in this one.
And as you said, Case Keenum's not your ideal quarterback. Well, Jeff Fisher was head coach in Tennessee there for a while with the Titans. We got some more breaking news too. We didn't talk about previewing UFC 204 this week, but we might have to talk about UFC 205 and 206 because Daniel Cormier is going to defend his light heavyweight title against Anthony Johnson. That's going to be a good fight. Anyways, going back to football. Case Keenum's not your ideal quarterback, as you said. Fisher was in Nashville with the Titans. He didn't start Steve McNair for 2 years, and after taking him, in the first round. He takes Jared Goff, first overall pick in this past year's draft. That decision to not start Goff, throw him in throw them in what you want to call it. Throw them into the what's the saying? Not to the snakes, to throw them to the dogs, and it's panning out because Case Keenum's been playing pretty well. I would really like to see the Buffalo Bills circle the wagons for the third straight week, but they're going cross country to LA. The Rams are 3-1. That crowd's going to be so into it at the Coliseum on Sunday. I think the Rams are going to beat the Bills by less than 5 points.
All right. Sunday night, the Giants head to Lambeau to take on the Packers, and their second straight week now. They're in prime time, taking on an NFC North opponent.
Yes.
On the road.
Yes.
Tough break for the Giants here on the schedule, I have to say. I'm going to go Packers in this one, coming off the bye week. They're a really, really good team. They have that just one loss to the Vikings, by the way. And at home, the Giants, I don't know what to say about the Giants. They're an average team, I would say. You never know with the Giants, really.
Yeah, they did beat Dallas week 1, and then everybody thought, they were going to do something good this year. And not really, because they beat your Saints or they lose the Saints.
They beat the Saints.
Yeah, they beat the Saints. So they
on the final play.
They're 2-2 right now.
They beat the Saints in the final play of field goal.
They're 2-2 right now.
If I recall, they didn't exactly. They lost to the Redskins then. I guess if you're saying they're 2-2.
Or are they 3-1? Yeah. Okay. No, were they 3-0 going into Monday night?
I forget.
Anyways, they're either 2-2 and 3-1 right now. We don't have it in front of us. We're sorry about that. If they're 2-2, they're going to be 2-3 after this one. Yeah. If they're 3-1, they're going to be 3-2 after this one because Green Bay's playing at home. Lambeau's going to be fired up, especially for a Sunday night game against a team that they might come across again in the playoffs.
Depends on. It'll depend on how well the Cowboys play the rest of the season. Also, the Eagles, who are still undefeated.
Yes, that NFC East. That NFC East is another
wild division.
Wild division, as we've said before.
Changes every year almost.
Yeah.
One
of those teams has to win.
Wasn't like.
And one has to be the wild card. So.
It wasn't like the last 3 years. It's like the Cowboys is in the final game of the season to make the playoffs, and they're playing each of the other teams in those last 3 years, and they don't win any of them. So maybe it's the Cowboys' year. So
yeah, Packers over the Giants though in the Sunday night matchup.
Giants, yeah. I think the Monday night game we'll probably agree on as well as the Buccaneers travel to Charlotte, take on the Carolina Panthers.
Yep.
The Panthers at home on Monday night. They needed to win. They were 1-3 on the season, looking really poor after going 15-1 last season. Already have 3 losses this year to begin the year.
They've lost 4 of their last 5, including the Super Bowl.
So they've been looking pretty poor. I know a lot of it has to do with losing guys to off-season, as with most Super Bowl teams do.
Blah, blah, blah,
That's the excuse, yes. They got torched last week against Atlanta, giving up 300 yards to Julio Jones alone, and then 500 to Matt Ryan.
I don't know how that happens. I seriously don't know how that happens.
Yeah. I mean, it's mind-boggling. James might be able to have his way with that secondary, possibly somewhat. Might be a closer game than I think, at least on paper. It shouldn't be on paper. If you look at it, like at the beginning of the season, you saw this game, you'd be like, "Oh, the Panthers are going to kill them," But now, like through the season, it might be closer than we think. I'm still going to go Panthers at home.
You're going to go Panthers. I'm going to go Buccaneers just for the hell of it. No, not. No, I'm not picking the Buccaneers just because of the hell of it. I'm picking the Buccaneers for real. I think Carolina's in some trouble, and as we've said, the NFC East is one of those divisions that's up and down. You got a different team winning every single year, and it seems like the whole NFC, because the AFC is different. Because the NFC North, it was always the Packers. But
the NFC North is.
But then the Bears have been playing good. And then the Vikings won it last year.
Yes.
And then you got the Lions there. They're good
They were good for a couple years.
And then...
and the Bears were there for a couple years as well, battling for the division title.
And then, the NFC West, as we've said before.
Yeah, we mentioned the West before.
The East and the South. But
The AFC, you've had the Patriots dominating for a very long time in the East.
But
East.
Carolina, they are in need of a win. I agree with you on that, but I don't think they get it this week on Monday night.
If they don't, man, they're going to be in even bigger trouble than they already are.
Cam Newton might not play. He has a concussion. We'll have to see.
That is another thing to look out for.
Derek Anderson might be playing. Did play well in relief, last week.
Granted, it was garbage time.
It was, but they, were down to the Falcons.
Yeah.
And they almost came back, but then he threw a pick late.
Yeah.
So, Buccaneers over the Panthers.
All right. Probably the biggest shock of the week for the pick.
That or if the Browns beat the Patriots,
Yeah. If that happens, that'll be...
I mean, you could say the Jets over the Steelers because with how Pittsburgh's been playing and how the Jets have been playing, it's a good matchup on paper.
Yeah.
But with just how the teams are playing, if, the Jets win it, it might be a big upset.
You might think the show's over, but we still got one more thing to talk about.
Yeah.
We've gone on for a while now.
This is a long ass episode.
We still got one more thing to talk about. It's WWE No Mercy, SmackDown.
So if you're still with us, thank you for sticking with us. I'm sure I put somebody to sleep. Like they actually fell asleep. I didn't kill them. Let's get into No Mercy.
No Mercy, the second SmackDown Live pay-per-view of the year. 6 matches as it stands right now, as of last night into today. We'll start with the first match. I'll start with the 2 matches that aren't for titles, as all the other titles will be on the line. But Carmella takes on Nikki Bella in one of 2 women's matches on the card. I'm going Carmella on this one because I think it's going to extend a feud between the 2 heading into Survivor Series.
Who do I want to pick? I don't care. Pick someone for me, Corey. I've been talking too much.
We'll pick Carmella because, you like both of them, though, so...
Yeah, I don't know. I'll let you know next week.
You can do that because this isn't...
I don't think anybody cares about this match anyway.
Yeah, no.
And this is recorded. Is that what you said?
Plus, this isn't recorded as like we do for the other picks in the NFL.
Oh, okay.
We don't record the picks and say what we got the previous week. These picks don't matter in the long run about anything.
I really don't care about this match, to be honest with you. So yeah,
this match you probably care.
We actually saw these guys, last weekend too.
Yeah, so
if you didn't hear that, go listen to it. It's on last week's
episode. This next match you might care a little bit more about. Randy Orton versus Bray Wyatt.
Yes.
I got Bray Wyatt in this one.
Yep.
Because as usual, he needs that win.
Yes,
he never seems to win these
big matches.
Just like
Carolina Panthers. I think he will get it though.
He never seems to win these big matches, and Randy he's been getting the better of him pretty much week in and week out, building this feud.
He has.
It only makes sense that Bray ends up winning the pay-per-view.
And then, I don't know if you saw Eric Rowan's out 4 to 6 months.
Yeah.
He tore his rotator cuff again. So Bray's going to be by himself.
He's going to be going it alone.
But, there's been rumors for a while now. Luke Harper's going to be returning.
I have him returning on Raw next week.
On Raw next week, okay.
Because
I was thinking...
If you watched Raw, you didn't watch Raw. So.
I did not watch Raw or SmackDown. I have been busy, I'm sorry. I
know I don't want to spoil anything for you, but I know you won't care about this. Braun Strowman had another jobber match.
Yeah, I don't.
And after the match, he cut a promo saying that if I don't get better competition next week, then there will be hell to pay. So I think it's going to be Luke Harper next week to face him. Because he's cleared, obviously. He's ready to come back. So I think it might be Luke Harper next week.
All right.
As Braun Strowman.
Now that I know that, I might have changed. My mind has changed a little bit, but
you never know. Obviously.
You never know. That is a good prediction. But I'm going to say what I was just thinking there. With the Rowan out now.
Yeah.
Maybe Harper comes back and gives Randy the win, and then Bray and Luke go at it. But with what you had said, with what was on Raw this past week that I did not watch, I've been busy. I could see Luke Harper coming back and facing Braun Strowman, and then to feud on Monday Night Raw. Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, yeah, both of them are good predictions, though. I think.
All right. first, the tag team titles. We'll start with the title matches of tag team titles. As Heath Slater and Rhino take on the Usos for the second straight pay-per-view. They took them on at Backlash, where they won. But this time I got the Usos winning because Slater winning the tag titles, it's kind of a fun conclusion to a fun storyline.
Yeah.
But now it's time to get serious. Now that he has that contract, he can drop the titles to the heels that are the Usos, setting up the much-wanted feud, I'm sure, on SmackDown, American Alpha versus the Usos, which they keep building and building. Now, I mean, they did it on SmackDown. You didn't watch it. I don't want to spoil anything for you, so they kept building it on SmackDown again. So just to let you know.
Yeah, I'm going to have to take the Usos as well. Uso crazy. I think the way they will win is because Rhino's going to be getting ready to gore one of the Usos, and Heath Slater is going to be standing behind him, and he's going to move, and he's going to spear Slater then, and then
I can see it,
and then one of the Usos will pin one of them, and the Usos will win, and then it'll go into the storyline Rhino versus Heath Slater.
I can definitely see that happening.
So I literally just thought of that on the top of my head too, by the way.
They've done it before, so I can definitely see it happening again. Especially with this team. A team like this, it's like two random guys, you know? So, alright, women's title match. Becky Lynch takes on Alexa Bliss. Becky Lynch in this one. First title defense, makes sense for her to establish her as a serious champion, as a worthy champion. So, also, it's Alexa's first chance at a title. She's newer. Put it on the title right now. It doesn't really make sense to put it on her, you know? So, down the line, yeah, she'll be the champion probably at some point. But not now. No. Keep it on Becky for a while, you know?
Yeah.
Until, like, Nikki or Natalya, maybe even, who knows, comes up. It's hard to tell with the SmackDown Women's Division. Like, I don't really know how that's going to work.
Yeah, neither do I. I mean, I really like Harley Quinn, though, so I'm going to have to take Alexa Bliss over Becky Lynch, as much as I don't want to. I like both of them. But I think Alexa Bliss, she's been, no, I changed my mind. I take that back, sorry. She's been getting a lot of, heel heat, and she's been getting over, in the past couple weeks leading up to this. But, yeah, Becky will bury her. I think they'll do it like with what they've done to Bray Wyatt over the past how many years. They build him up so much and then they just bury him. I think they'll do the same to Alexa Bliss. So Becky Lynch will win. I take that back.
All right, we got what's for me the most exciting match. The match I'm most excited for: The Miz taking on Dolph Ziggler in a title versus career match.
Awesome.
Title.
By the way,
career.
I met him last week too. If you didn't know.
If
you didn't know, yeah.
Title versus career.
You didn't know?
Yeah, title versus career. Dolph's career for Miz's title. I got the Miz winning.
Really?
This is probably the most excited I've been for a match for a while now. Probably since last year's SummerSlam, Rollins versus Cena for the U.S. and World titles. I was excited for that one. Yeah. Also because it's the first pay-per-view I watched as well, ever. So
that is true.
And plus, no one totally knows for sure what's going to happen in this one, because at first everyone was like, at least for me, it's kind of an excuse to let The Miz lose, kind of, because Ziggler's career's on the line. But then there's like this rumors going around that Ziggler might actually leave. He might actually quit WWE here and pursue something else. So
acting, maybe?
Who knows?
TNA's up for sale. I wouldn't want to go to TNA if I was Dolph Ziggler right now. But maybe he goes to ROH. I don't know.
For me, it leaves the finish up in the air. I still have no idea, quite sure. Plus, these two always put on a good match anyway, so it's going to be a great match to begin with.
Yes,
this will be no different.
They're best friends in real life.
And then, given the stakes of the match, it's only going to heighten the drama for this match. Another thing I want to mention, hopefully it's a no DQ type match, considering the stipulations at hand. His career's on the line. You don't want Miz to cheat and then they kind of have a cheap I retain the title. You keep your career though. It's kind of that'd be a stupid way to end it.
I know you told me Kurt Hawkins is returning.
Yes. And
he will be. Well, I knew he was returning. I'm not that stupid.
He's going to be at No Mercy.
Yeah, you said he's going to be at No Mercy. I said that wrong. That's my fault. He's going to be at No Mercy. I think The Miz is going to retain because Kurt Hawkins is going to interfere with Dolph Ziggler. Set up a feud with that. It will keep Ziggler in the fold for now, and then Miz retains, and they go into Miz and not Miz, Ziggler and Hawkins go into a feud because he cost him the Intercontinental Championship.
All right.
And then that's how you get Kurt Hawkins into the fold coming back.
Sure. Plus
the Chuck Norris persona.
Oh yeah. Plus keeps that Intercontinental Championship World Tour going. Got to keep it going.
He was at day 172, if I'm not mistaken, when I met him. I could be wrong on that. I didn't ask him. I didn't want to be rude. I should have known it, so that's why I didn't ask. I believe it was day 172. So, Miz, you better be listening, and if you're not, there's going to be hell to pay. But, yeah, I met the Miz, and I think he'll retain this Sunday, No Mercy.
All right. Last match, the triple threat for the world title, Dean Ambrose versus John Cena versus AJ Styles. I got AJ Styles winning this one because I think he's going to hold this title for quite a while, if you ask me. We know WWE's high on him. We've said it before, either on or off air, that Vince McMahon regretted never signing AJ Styles up to this point.
Should have signed him in 2002 when he had a tryout.
So they're high on him, and so are the fans, obviously.
He's phenomenal.
He's phenomenal. So, I mean, I see his reign lasting to at least WrestleMania, maybe even further, where he may or may not lose it at WrestleMania. So, who knows? Ambrose. It depends. Maybe even Cena, possibly. Who knows? And if Cena's not facing like the Undertaker or something at WrestleMania, but.
Well, there's rumors Kevin Owens is going to be facing The Undertaker, so...
There's rumors everywhere about someone and someone. There's even rumors about Goldberg facing Lesnar at Survivor Series.
At Survivor Series, which is next month.
So...
And, you said rumors and rumors. I don't believe anything until, I can see
not even half of these
until I see it with my own eyes, until it's said and done, so...
Like, not even half of these come to fruition anyway.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll have to see. Ambrose, I think, should contend for the Intercontinental Championship for a little bit. Let someone else like Bray Wyatt or someone take his spot in the main event for the time being,
There's also rumors that he's taking some time off, so we'll have to see about that.
Yeah, but Styles in this one.
I also have AJ Styles. I don't need to say anymore. He's phenomenal.
That's all you need to say.
He's going to win, so yeah.
Yeah.
AJ Styles.
All right. And finally, we've reached the end of the show now. The tail end of the show. We still got a little bit to go yet. The question of the week this week.
All right. What do you got?
After Monday night, Odell Beckham Jr. had Xavier Rhodes, who I talked about a little earlier. He got under his skin a little bit with his great defense of him.
Xavier Woods,
yes. Exactly. He had some more outbursts on Monday. So what do you think of OBJ's recent actions on the field on Monday night? And even some of his other actions on the field. The Norman game last year and then just the week prior against the Redskins.
He's a hothead is what he is. And he's overrated. I don't need to say anymore.
He is overrated.
It's all about that catch.
He's a star because of one play.
Exactly.
He's just a star because of one-handed catch that looked pretty great, one play of the year, whatever. And he's a hothead with his ramen noodle hair. And his ramen noodles there. That's what it looked like to me when I saw
does.
In his interview last night. It just looked like ramen noodles to me.
I agree with that.
And everyone has that hairstyle now. It's just ridiculous. But
because of him.
Yeah. But yeah, play.
It's a trend.
People call it the best catch ever. I don't even call it the best catch ever. I might not even call it the best catch in the NFL ever. Hell, David Tyree, I even put maybe close to that. Hell, even Santonio Holmes in the Super Bowl. You would attest to that as being one of the best catches ever.
Well, yeah, because you got to drag your feet to be.
Yeah.
You got to have possession of the ball, and then you got to be able to drag your feet and have 2 feet inbounds in the NFL to have it be a catch. And I just thought too, because you brought Santonio Holmes into the fold, I was going to say, well, because Tyree was a giant, Odell Beckham Jr. is a giant, New York Giant that is. They're not giants. They're not 10 foot tall. Santonio Holmes never really did anything after that catch.
Yeah.
So.
David Tyree either, really.
No.
But they're not.
And 2 of those were in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. So, I mean, you think of the
stakes. That's the only thing that's different.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that's different. The height of the game, I guess you could say. So. Yeah.
I've maybe even seen catches that are better than that. I think AJ Green had a one-handed catch that was ridiculous in high school that I could even say was almost better than that catch. I mean, it's still a great catch. Sure, I'll give.
Well, if all these rumors are true about everything going on in the sports world, I can say I caught a ball with one finger, and everybody's going to believe me.
Yeah.
So there's something wrong with this world today, and it's probably not going to get any better. Going back to politics and the flag and standing up for it, the national anthem, the whole 9 yards. I can go on and 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 on. But how long have we been talking? Good God, it's over 2 hours. This is part 2 because we knew it was going to be too long. So I don't want to go on and on and on and on and on and on and on. So I might have messed up there. You might have to go back just a tiny bit there to see if I did. But anyways, Odell Beckham Jr., going back to him, he's overrated just because of that one catch. And I'll leave it at that. I know you probably might want to say more about Tyree and Holmes and Beckham. I don't know.
I think I'll just leave it at this. He's a guy. He's a hothead, and
is because look at and we're still going to go on because I like to talk.
Yeah.
Because you brought it up to me earlier when you told me what the question of the week was going to be about looking. Well, I had brought in the. You had said the new guys, and I said the old guys. You said new guys were Odell Beckham Jr., Dez Bryant, and I had said Justin Blackmon. Initially. Yeah. 2 Oklahoma State guys, too, by the way, Bryant and Blackmon. Blackmon's no longer in the NFL. He can't stay out of trouble. He smokes too much pot. But anyways, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and when we watched football, mid-2000s, Randy Moss, Chad Johnson, Chad Ochocinco, and who's the other one?
It was T.O.
Yeah, Terrell Owens. So it's just a new generation of
new cycle, if you will.
New cycle, yeah, perfect word. Cycle of wide receivers that are hotheads in the National Football League.
And this is where I want to finish. This will be the last thing, I guess. Hopefully, it will be the last thing.
We'll see about that. I don't know. We'll see what you have to say.
He's saying that because of the Norman stuff, his reputation is tarnished and people don't like him anymore.
That is
and
bullshit.
I'm saying it's bullshit as well.
Bullshit.
I'm like, we don't like you. Your reputation is tarnished because you're acting like a total bitch because you're getting covered. Because you're getting covered so well, you can't stand it.
That is on you.
Just because some guy's playing really good defense on you doesn't
mean
for
you to get
You're the one
who has 2 legs and 2 arms and 2 hands and 10 fingers to catch the damn football. Your 2 legs are to run to catch the football if you didn't, catch on. But that's total bullshit. That's on him.
I mean, you can't get pissed just because you're getting covered so well, Just because some guy's shutting you down, you gotta get pissed and start getting pissed off at anything he does against you,
Piss.
I think it's about time we wrap it up.
I gotta go take one, so
yes.
We're gonna end.
It's been a long day, so yeah.
It has been a long day.
It's about time to wrap it up here for this week on Across the Goal Line. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at ATGL16. All those links available in the description of this video. Answer the question of the week on Facebook or Twitter by voting in our poll. You can follow Luke at CoinLuke96 and me at CMA14 on Twitter as well. And don't forget to buy our merch, which you can contact us about using all those social media platforms or emailing us at acrossthegoalline2016@gmail.com. And for Luke Gossard and Corey Maines, and we'll see you on the next edition of Across the Goal Line live from the field.